thank you so much for joining. We've been really excited about this. Obviously, we have some fans in the crowd. And yeah, we're really excited. Wish that you could be here in person again, but glad to find a way around it with COVID.
Yeah.
So just some quick GBS announcements. Oh, also welcome to everyone from GBB. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're always excited to collab with you guys. But yeah, just a few announcements. Our Global Gator applications are extended, so those will close Friday, November 13th at midnight. And we're gonna have an info session this coming Monday at 6:30 p.m. and it's the same Zoom link as all of the general body meetings. So definitely join that if you're interested in the program. And then on Tuesday, we have a committee meeting for all of our members. And our last general body meeting is November 17th. And that's the Intersectionality Abroad, the Black Experience general body meeting. And we've been working on that for a while. It's going to be a panel of Black students and alumni who've studied abroad, and they're going to share about how their racial and ethnic background influenced their experience abroad, and it's going to be great. We have really great panelists, so definitely plan to join us for that. Okay, so I guess I will go ahead and have Rebecca introduce herself and tell us a little more about herself.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. So great to connect, even though it's virtually this time. I am Rebecca Dossantos, as you can see by the name, and I'm the founder of Colibri Content. And yeah, it's so exciting to be here. As you can see, for those of you who were in here earlier, I already have established a really great relationship with GBS, have been here several times. I love talking to you guys. I love learning about you guys too, and what you're into and what's going on. I'm really excited for this meeting because so many former Freebirds are here, and they'll actually even help me out, maybe, if that's okay, with Gabriella, and talk about some of the things. They could even give like their real world experience to go over some of the, because I know you guys have a lot of questions, to go over some of the answers that you guys have. So yeah, I'll just start with a little introduction. I have like a little list of things that I want to say. So I'm going to get that out over here. And so yeah, so I graduated at UF in 2016. I actually walked in 2015, which I don't even know if a lot of you know this, but I walked in 2015 because I wanted to do my last semester abroad in Chile, but my family was like, you have to graduate, because I was the first in the family to graduate, and they're like, you have to walk the stage, like you're not going to be in another country and take that away from us. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll just walk in 2015, even though I hadn't technically graduated. And then I just took a plane to Chile, to Universidad de Adolfo Ibáñez, in my last semester, which is just a whole story, and Jason loves it, I'm sure, because it's just so wild for someone to decide to do that. This is after I had already done a year abroad in Spain, my junior year. So yeah, my family was like, you need to stay here and just walk across that stage for us so we can take pictures and tell people that our daughter graduated. So yeah, so I graduated with a degree in marketing. It was amazing to be at the College of Business and connect with the international programs department at the time to get me abroad. And that even pushed into my certificate in Latin American Studies. That connected me to get my certificate of Latin American Studies in Chile at Adolfo Ibáñez. So I graduated with a degree in marketing with a certificate in Latin American Studies, which is awesome because my business uses both of those. And so, yeah, that was incredible. And I'll get into how that played into my career, into shaping my career in a minute. But just on the intro side, for what I did at UF, I was very involved heavily with everything international. So I was in Navigators. I don't know if that still exists there, where you connect with international students, made a lot of connections there. I was in ELI, which is the English Language Institute, connected with students that weren't technically like in the College of Business or enrolled at UF, but were enrolled at UF to learn a language. I don't know if you guys know about ELI, very, very cool organization. A lot of them also might even study PhDs. So just got to connect with different types of international students. So again, on that international note, I was just everywhere I could stick my nose into international stuff. I wanted to learn languages. I took classes in Portuguese, even though I already spoke Portuguese. I did everything that I could to get involved with people from other countries. And then I got into freelancing and using what I did through my experiences at UF. And I started connecting with a bunch of people, and that blossomed into just different opportunities for me to create Calibri. So yeah, which I'll get into talking about a little bit more. But yeah, that's just my background. That's just the background I come from. And then on top of that, I have a Brazilian family. I was born in South Florida, was raised in Tampa, went to UF, and yeah, I've always loved traveling ever since I was a kid. So that was something that was very important to me. And I wanted to find a way to include my passion for all things international in my career. And I didn't know it was possible until different doors opened up for me along the way. And I'll talk about those specifically. But I don't know if you want me, Gabriela, to just continue on that.
Yeah, so I think this first question kind of goes well with everything that you're saying. You know, we have so it's GBS and GBB both have that global focus. So, you know, we all, I think we can all kind of relate to what you're saying about wanting to do everything that's international related at UF. So if you could kind of talk about how that shaped your career path and what your advice would be for students who think, you know, I want this to be translated into my career, but I don't know how to do that. I don't even know what that would look like. If you could talk a little more about that.
Yeah. And that was something that was really hard for me to figure out as well, because I didn't know all of the opportunities internationally for how to get a job and how to do it in my career. So my first advice would be to connect with other international students, other people who live in other countries, and ask them about their countries, what's important for their markets in their countries. And then you get a taste of what's important to study and to know. If you want to work in a certain country, you want to know what industries move those countries, you know? So I would connect with people from other countries just to get more information on what types of job opportunities were offered for in the international scene. And then, you know, and maybe Jason's already shared this, but there's so many opportunities, maybe not working in the business sector, but I'm sure you guys have heard of working with the Department of State, doing things through the government that could get you abroad, that can get you that exposure and that experience. I actually did apply for the Department of State like 3 times, and I got in all of them, but it wasn't paid, and it was very difficult at the time. And I had like a lot of problems with getting security clearance because my family's from abroad. So it was just like a whole thing there. That was a barrier for me, but that led me into just pursuing more into the business side of things. But I did start on that side through the public sector. And then talking to my friends who lived in other countries, I started figuring out ideas for how to do it in the private sector, so through business, and that opened the door for me to just think about what could be possible, if that makes sense. So sometimes we just need to talk to people and see what else is out there, and just have an understanding of the lay of the land of other countries, of what opportunities exist. And just talking to people who have gone before you, so important. It did so much for my opportunities that opened up. And so specifically how my international experiences helped me was I was able to be super adaptable and flexible in that pursuit. So that can be something that's very difficult, because it is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not like you go on LinkedIn and you really easily find jobs in the international sector. So my experience abroad really made me this person that was a solutions finder, that I could go and find what I wanted to do. And it creates a boldness in you, because if you're able to live in another country and figure out your visa situation and figure out where to live and figure out all of these different things and just interact with people who are different than you, that gives you a lot of soft qualities and soft skills that are super important in the international scene professionally. And so being adaptable, being flexible, being empathetic to people was super important. Even when I connected with people in other countries that I wanted to give me jobs, that was how my international experiences at UF, that was how it helped me get my jobs in the future. So all of these soft qualities that you can't really like pinpoint, they really helped me be able to connect with people and get jobs that way. And then there's like a whole funny story in that, like I went on LinkedIn, and Jason loves this. I went on LinkedIn and I just started, I knew that I wanted to work in Latin America. So that's another thing. Like if you have a region you have in mind, that's really, really great to pinpoint. I had a region in mind. I knew I wanted to work in Latin America. And then I started looking on LinkedIn for companies that worked in Latin America. And I started just messaging on the articles that they posted. You would be surprised at how much companies love engagement and how much they recognize it. So just like going into posts and commenting things that I had learned from my certificate of Latin American studies, I learned so much with that certificate. That is another way my international experience during undergrad helped me. This certificate was vital in me being able to even talk about things in such a eloquent and professional academic way where I knew what I was talking about when it came to international business. So on top of this, I've never mentioned this before, but I would say do research on different industries and different markets all the time, and just be on top of things, what's happening around the world as it pertains, not just politically, but as it pertains to maybe like trade agreements, different things that affect business. So whenever you do go into an interview for an international job, if they say something to you, you have something to play on that you can pull from, that you've already had research on, that you've already learned. So that would be an advice that I have. If you're super serious about going international business, be on top of international business trends and topics, especially between different countries. And so, yeah, that was how my experiences during undergrad helped me.
No, yeah, that's great advice. And I do agree. I feel like we sometimes get scared to like go and put ourselves out there on LinkedIn, especially, and just, make our knowledge known and interact with companies. But it does make such a difference, and people are so receptive. So that's really great advice.
So receptive.
Yeah.
So receptive. People love it. People want to just talk to you, and they want to hire you, by the way. You guys go to a great school, and you guys are all smart kids. People want to hire good talent. And it's just, you don't know how amazing it is finding quality talent when you're a company. So put yourself out there, like you're helping them. You're doing their job for them because they're going to pay someone to go get you. So if you make it easier and come to them, it can really open doors for you.
So kind of talking about how you got into the private sector, if you could talk more about like what it was like to build Calibri, to just like build this company on your own, and maybe like what are some challenges that you faced? How did you overcome them? And I think a lot of business students have that ultimate goal of opening a business. So what would you, or a company, what would your advice be to them?
I wonder how many of you, I guess I can't see you anymore, but it would be interesting to know how many of you are interested in that, because that is cool that people want to build their own company.
Could do, if you like want to, we could do like the raise your hand feature. I don't know if it's there. I'm trying to raise my hand because that's a goal of mine too. So I think that's pretty common within the business.
Yeah, it's common. Okay. So, Zachary does. Okay, I see. Sneha does. Okay, cool. Okay, I can see the raise the hand feature. So if quite a few of you want to build a business. And so I would say, first, building a business is not about you. It's about serving others. And I think that can happen a lot in failed businesses where they're like, I have this skill and I can do this and I'm going to do this. And it's all about me. But when you're building a business, it's about serving someone else's needs. So try to make it less about you. Of course, understanding your skills and what you provide and your gifts are amazing, and you need to include that in your business plan for the business that you want to do, because you don't want to do something that you are not good at. But make sure that your idea, what you want to build, actually serves people. So that's my biggest insight on building a successful company. And the way that I started Calibri was by measuring and figuring out if there was demand for what I wanted to offer, which is marketing for international clients who want to go from one country to another. So how to get them to grow their businesses in new places. So it's an international, like, digital growth agency, let's say. So I wanted to know first, before I did that, I wanted to test to see if people actually needed that. And I found that people did. And I did that by seeing what people were asking for on places like Upwork and Fiverr, and just doing a little bit of research on Google and seeing even what companies are asking for, maybe on LinkedIn, gives you insight into what people want and need. So yeah, that's the first insight that I have. And then having a vision and goal and then working towards it constantly. So perseverance is super important. But with that, also being adaptable and flexible with the market to make sure that you are serving the needs of the people at all times, because needs sometimes changes. And so one day it might be good for you to do this, but the next day it might be good for you to like just shift it a little bit and do it in a different way or market it in a different way. And I think my international experience as an undergrad actually helped me do that with my business in Calibri, because I started Calibri just a year after UF. So yeah, also there's no barriers. Like if you have a goal and a plan, you can start doing it right now. You can start doing it while you're studying and create like an idea and a plan and test it out and see if people bite, and then just keep moving forward that way. Like you're not going to have the whole business ready at the beginning. It's a process. It's slow to grow. So just be patient in that process, and it's beautiful. And then after you start creating, after you start understanding your audience a little bit more, and you start understanding how to sell to them, and you start understanding how you help them the best, then you can start creating processes and systems that will automate your service a little bit more. And that's like a whole, like, I'm still learning that. So I'm not like the expert here, but I've found that creating processes and systems in my business for like maybe hiring, I'll have a process, and then training, I'll have a process. To train people, I have a process, and then to sell, how to market, I have a process. So everything has a process and a system to it. And then the last thing I would say is the people you work with and the people you serve, making sure that you like them. That's important to keep it going, because you don't do this alone. You always need help. And finding mentors, also really, really important. I think Jason's talked about this a lot. Finding a mentor, like I said in the beginning, someone who's kind of paved the way, just connecting with them, reaching out to them, talking to them, and seeing what they have to say about it. So those are my insights.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone to your presentations before, but that was always something that I was always excited to hear from you about, and admire you a lot, because I think a lot of times business students, including myself, we always think that there's like this path, and then we can maybe build a company like 20, 30 years down the road. But, you know, you're an obvious example that you can, you know, if you want to do it and you know you want to do it, you can go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you can do it while you work too, maybe. If it's something you're super passionate about, you can do. I know a lot of people now, they'll find part-time jobs, and those are becoming a little bit more accessible, and they can work on their side hustle, side project until it becomes a business, or you can work on it, take advantage of the time that you have now as a student to come up with it and test it out. But there's always ways to find solutions for how to create it and pave a new way for it. You don't have to like do it how you said, like maybe in 20, 30 years. Like you can find ways to support yourself financially and then also build a business at the same time.
So talking specifically about Calibri and how who you're working with, when you're working with clients or maybe coworkers, what is your advice for working through cultural differences? Obviously, because you have these, you know, clients from different countries, and through language barriers in the workplace.
Yeah. So I think the biggest one is understanding and empathy, which traveling helps. And connecting with other people really helps to do. I think the best thing to do is put yourself in another person's shoes before you judge them. Because a lot of the times the strife will come from the fact that you don't understand how they're doing something, and then you start to judge them for it. So just try to get judgment out of your head. Like when you judge, you get bitter in your heart. And when you get bitter in your heart, it just does not create a safe place for you to maybe even work out those differences. So coming from an understanding, empathetic place is really helpful for you to get through the challenges. So that's what I would say. I mean, and sometimes, I mean, judging, when I'm saying don't judge, it's like you can acknowledge that something that someone does is different and difficult for you to understand, but it allows you to see, you can critique them, but also see them in a peaceful way without like judging them, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want to say, because sometimes people will do things that just don't make sense, and maybe it can be unproductive. Like when I was in Colombia, they took like 7 breaks a day for like 45 minutes. It was like, and I'm just exaggerating, but it was a lot. And I was like, I had to get work done, and it didn't make sense. And in the beginning, I would judge them and get a little bit bitter, like, oh, in America we do it like this, and it's so much better. And so that wasn't a great way to get through that, with being judgmental. It didn't solve anything. So when I started being understanding of how their culture is when I was able to peacefully be like, hey, maybe we can do 20 minutes instead of 45 because we have to get these things done. And I get that that's important to you to have all that time, but how can we work together with this? And so it just cultivates a better way to have conversations and to get through those tough times.
That does make sense. So I know, okay, so obviously, you know, we're COVID-19, everything's been transitioning, our classes are, you know, GBS, everything, work, all of that. And so I know a little bit about Freebirds, but maybe if you could explain for those who aren't as familiar with your team, what Freebirds are, and then kind of if you have advice for students building relationships virtually, and maybe even if the past interns in the call want to also join in, that'd be cool too.
You guys can totally jump in now if that's okay, because I feel like that's a great question for someone who was a Freebird. And if they can, I'm not sure if you can unmute them and they can talk about that for a second. I don't know who wants to talk.
Allie, did you want to?
Allie, maybe?
Yeah, I can hop in. So my experience as a Freebird, and what I understand it to be, is essentially it's the team at Calibri, and we are all remote. There's no physical office, so you work out of your laptop, and you can essentially work anywhere. So you are kind of pushed to travel and to explore different areas through your work because you're not tied to an office. So I know that Rebecca worked out of Lisbon for a while. That's where we actually met. Back when Corona wasn't even a thing. We met up for coffee. And when you're learning about other cultures, you can embed that into your work at Calibri. So that's essentially what it is. I don't know if how the work itself is done has changed a little bit. I know that I interned, I think, back in like 2018.
Yeah.
Which is
a
while ago.
Yeah. Maybe if Hannah's still in here, maybe she could talk about that.
So this summer with COVID, the fact that the internship was virtual was amazing because it couldn't be in person. And yeah, the fact that it's virtual, like Ali said, you're a Freebird, so you get to kind of explore things on your own time. When I started the internship, there were a ton of resources for me. So despite being half Spanish, half Mexican, like there's a lot more to the Latin American market that I didn't know about. So Becca provides a ton of resources for you to know things like, how is the market different in Brazil versus in Colombia, etc. So then being in a virtual environment is more convenient because you can work from home, but also it gives you all the time and the resources to explore so you can do the best work possible.
Yeah.
And want to add, like with the internship, like we also like learned how to collaborate with the team virtually. So we had a report that we were doing, and Hannah, I, and 2 other Freebirds were working on it together. So we like collaborated like daily on like Zoom and got that project done.
Awesome. And Sneha, maybe you could, if you can hear me, maybe you can add on to the challenges of working on a remote team and how you overcame them.
Yeah, I think one of the main challenges was obviously like finding a time that worked for everyone, and the technological difficulties, because like Wi-Fi, things cutting out, like just communication wise, that was one of the harder parts about virtual. Just making sure we can get a response in time. But once we were all able to get like on the same page, it went more smoothly.
Awesome. Yeah. So for the virtual, actually working virtual, it's so hard to connect everyone, and you have to be very intentional with how you connect with people, and you have to really like be calling them on WhatsApp and trying to get some face-to-face time and being proactive in that sense. Whereas maybe in a regular office, you just yell at the neighbor next to you and you don't have to like go out of your way so much. So yeah, I think if you're intentional about it, remote working is it's not as hard. And I think just to add on to what Sneha was saying, you have to really like be on top of things, and you just have to be on top of things because things get lost in communication sometimes, and not like, oh, I told you the deadline was this day and it's due this day. More like, I'll tell you this needs to be done, but you understand the task in another way because maybe I didn't like clearly explain it the right way. And so just confirming that people know what they're supposed to be doing, and you confirming as a employee to your boss that you know what's expected of you goes a long way in removing a lot of the headaches. So
actually on that note, if like from the perspective of a leader in like a management role, have you faced challenges having your team, leading a team virtually, or how does that work, if you like have anything about that?
Yeah, so I guess the challenge would be, I really want to connect with people and know everyone. And as we've grown, it's been difficult to do. Like I can't have like the one-on-ones all the time, which has been difficult. So the way that I manage it now is I have like people partnered with others so that there's always check-in times with people. Because I think the biggest challenge is not connecting face-to-face or not connecting on the phone as often as I would like to. So over time, I've implemented ways to make sure that there's always someone connecting with someone in some way now.
Okay, that's a really good point. So yeah, if you could actually, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but I guess if you could explain more in detail about what the internship is like and what the responsibilities look like. And then, yeah, if you have some advice for virtual interviewing, I'm sure you've done a lot of them from the different point of view than we have. So if you could give us some insight from that perspective, that'd be awesome.
For sure. So the internship, probably as Ali has mentioned, it's changed a bit because she was doing in the beginning is different from what's happening now. But at the core, everyone needs to understand digital marketing. And I think all of the interns, whether it was Ali or Sneha or anyone that's right now, you have to understand the basics of digital marketing. You have to understand the basics of SEO, which is a part of digital marketing, just to know how to reach people online, basically. And so that involves a lot of different parts. There's not one answer to what is digital marketing. There's tons of answers. There's tons of different areas and avenues that you can explore inside of the whole umbrella. But the beginning of the internship is always learning about the basics of what that means so that you understand it at a more conceptual level. So that's like the beginning of the internship. And then we have practice through content marketing to really, for you to like practice the theoretical of that, if that makes sense. So, but using our business and through our clients as well. So then you'll create content, which includes help on creating websites, help on creating articles, help on creating infographics, videos, anything, any type of content that you can consume and digest. So yeah, that's what that looks like at the beginning for everyone, no matter what. And then as the company progresses, we have different areas, like someone might work more in sales and marketing, and then someone else might work more on the side of like public relations, just like more connecting and getting links and stuff and building relationships online. So there's like different avenues, there's different ways that you could explore that could change as we see what you like and what you don't like. Hannah, she's like a finance student, and we somehow like threw in a finance project for her. So we do adapt to what you want to learn as well, because I know you guys want to have great resumes. So if there's something specific that you want to learn, trust me, we'll find a way to get it to you. We'll find a way for you to practice that using real world. And there's a lot of trust at Calibri. That's one of our big things. Like, I just want to trust people. So like, I'll just throw things at you. You might not even feel ready for it, but you learn a lot in just practicing things. So that is what the internship program looks like. And then advice for virtual interviews. I think the biggest advice that I have is to just be yourself. Like, kind of just like, you're talking to another person, and that's just another human being, and they have real feelings, and they're like not robots. So I think being yourself is really good. Aside from like the classic things that you guys should know because you're business students, like preparing for the interview, understand the company, understand how you are going to be of value to them, and make sure that you get that across. Like, there's all these different things that you can do that I hope that you guys do on your own and naturally. And I know you guys are awesome students and that you'll do those things. And every student I interview, they're always super prepared in that area. But what sets apart though the others that we end up choosing are the ones who are just themselves, and they're really honest about what they want to learn and grow in. And when they are honest about that, it makes the interviewer like more excited about like, okay, this person really wants to do that. And that helps me gauge whether or not that they'll fit in with us, if that makes sense. If we have things that will help them, because it's not just about us interviewing you. In a way, you're interviewing us. So just like keeping that balance, like remembering that it's just another human. They have their own needs, and you're helping them at the end of the day too, because they need you as well. So, that maybe helps you have a little bit of confidence. Again, don't get too prideful or anything, but just to understand what's actually happening when an interview is happening, and being yourself and being honest in it. Those are the ones that, at least for me, stand out the most. And I can feel, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to find a good fit. And if you're honest with me, I'll tell you if I believe this is a good fit for you or not. And even if you don't even know what you want, I'll be able to tell you if you're a good fit or not. And that will just help you for your own career, even if it is a no, for you to go the direction that you need to go. So even if you do get no's in interviews, that's also fine, because it's just kind of shaping you to see where you would be best flow into or go into. So I think that's my advice for virtual interviews. Just be yourself and talk a lot about yourself in an honest way, and you'll be fine.
It's a simple concept of remembering that it's just like another person you're talking to, but sometimes it like doesn't feel that way. Like, I know that with nerves and everything, it just, I mean, it definitely takes practice and everything, but it's very good advice.
Yeah. And sometimes the interviewer gets nervous, by the way. So, because they want to show themselves off as like, wow, they're representing the company. So just like understand that, know that, get that in your brain before. And then I think the jitters leave a little bit and you can be more honest. Again, though, do not forget to prepare for the interview, y'all, before. Like, don't just like go in and say whatever you want. You also want to think about how you can bring value to that company, and you want your answers to be tainted with that, if that makes sense. I think that's an important thing too. Just reminding that person why they should hire you, but in humble ways. And not hiring you, because I'm great at this. Hire me because I can help you with this thing that I'm good at. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So like, there's a way to phrase it where it's like, let's say you're a great writer. You're not going to say, I believe you should hire me because I'm a good writer. You want to reframe it and say, I noticed that you guys need content, and I feel that my writing skills would really help you get to the next level in that area of your business. Example, maybe a bad one, but just like there's a way to frame your answers that show that value without you sounding like you're the best person on the planet.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the last question that I had for you. So I want to make sure that we give everyone that's here an opportunity. If somebody has a question, feel free to come off of mute or to put it in the chat. But I definitely want to let everyone.
Yeah, guys, ask away. I love questions.
I'll jump in. First of all, big thanks, Gabby, for hosting us. Thank you for joining us, Rebecca. My question is kind of like, you guys seem like you were relatively prepared more than a lot of businesses for what COVID might have brought. But do you feel like there's going to be, like, what are the major long-term changes that it might bring to your business, if there are any? Or
Yeah.
could you just kind of handle it as it came?
Yeah. Let's see. What are the major long term? I guess like the only big difference is I wouldn't be able to meet up with clients as easily, which is just sad because I like to go and talk to people. But otherwise, COVID, I mean, if we're talking from a business perspective, right, on the international side, I thought that we weren't going to have as much opportunities, but that's not been the case. Actually, people are still going abroad and trying to sell their products even more digitally. So it's actually grown. Like the demand for my company has actually grown. So when it comes to like how work is done, like operations, not so much, except maybe I don't meet people face to face. But when it comes to like the service that we offer, we do have more of a demand now, which is awesome. So I hope that answers that question. I don't know if you had, yeah, okay, cool.
No, that was fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome.
I have a question. Hi, okay, so my question is, how has Calibri changed from when you first started, like your vision when you first created the company, to now? Have there been changes in the mission, the vision of the company, the way that you run business, the way that you pitch projects to clients?
For sure. Wonderful question. Yes. So things have definitely changed. Like I said, you got to adapt sometimes. So in the beginning, we were strictly just content marketers, which you probably did a lot of. Like straight up, just we wanted to help people create content. But then slowly we started realizing, okay, if we want to reach people who really want to grow into new places, they don't start at content marketing. They'll start at strategy. So then we shifted our focus a little bit into more of the consulting side to sell consulting and strategic guidance before they even before they even have a website. So just straight up from the beginning. So that's how we've changed with what we sell, with how we pitch. And then for how we change with actual business operations, another thing that we've shifted a little bit that we're working on right now is including services that are more local to help local businesses get online. And Hannah and Sneha know a little bit about that because they were working on it while they were with us over the summer. So that is something that we're like dabbling in a little bit more. But yeah, just getting like get some local help for maybe people who have businesses that they want to sell to Hispanics, let's say. So it's still multicultural, which fits in with our fits in with what we offer, but just a little different because it's not strictly international, if that makes sense. Yeah, great question.
I have a question kind of related. So you've obviously changed a lot from that point to now. How do you see Calibri growing in the future? Like, what are your goals maybe 5-10 years down the line?
Yeah. So actually one of my goals, and I have to talk to Jason, we need to get on a call very soon, because one of my goals that I had for my 3-5-year plan is actually happening now, which is it's just insane. So I really wanted to sell to like huge companies, like big companies, and help them sell consumer products into Latin America from the US, and help them from the beginning, like I said, from concept, like before just first concept, what we would do, people who already have established brands, like big famous established brands, and help them get them into other countries, specifically Latin America. So that is already happening. So that is just, it has been accelerated, which is insane. And I want to do more of those types of clients in the future. So I have one of those clients right now that I'm in contract with, that we are in contract with. But that would be my goal, is to work with people from the conceptual phase of getting into a new country. Like, okay, we have this product. What are the first steps we need to take to get abroad? And that is my passion. That's what and which also ties into like the entrepreneurial side, right? Which is another passion of mine, is starting a business. So it is like, it feels like you're helping someone start a business, but it's someone that already has like a really awesome brand behind them, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that
it
it's
does.
like, yeah.
So when you work with brands like this that have established, products that we would know and use in the US, when translating that into a different country, are there I'm guessing there are, but are there like tweaks or changes that you would make that you would suggest to make to the product so that it would be received well?
That's a great question. Yeah, that's adapting the product to the market, and sometimes you need to do that. And there's tons of examples where people don't do that and they fail because they don't change the name, or they don't change something, in the product, and it's not received very well. So sometimes that is part of the process. With the one that we have right now, I don't think it would be so dramatic, the change that we'd have to do. So because a lot of the times in Latin American markets, they already want these products because they're notoriously famous and they like American products. So maybe you don't even need to change. And that's really a Latin American thing. Maybe you don't even need to change it so much. So it really depends on the country and on the market. But that is something that we have to discuss and talk about as part of our strategic efforts to bringing it into another country.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any questions?
I have a quick question about Colibri.
Yeah.
So, what I just wanted to know, like, so mostly you work with like multinationals from like the US, or you were saying like products from the US to Latin America, but let's say like Latin American products, like small corporations here, would you ever work with them to go to the US, or even like for them to expand their own reach within the borders of their national country?
For sure. We never got, actually, when I worked for a company in Colombia, that was the first job I got out of UF. I went to that company in Colombia after I went on LinkedIn. And that was for expanding within countries as well. So that's the only experience I had in that area. For Calibri, we haven't done that, actually. That's a great question, because maybe we could include that. But we haven't had those questions. We haven't had people want that from our experience of what people ask us whenever they're inquiring about our services. As for the other way around, so going from Latin America to the US, it's more difficult to do for some reason. It's harder. I mean, it's just harder and I've been in talks with companies already from Brazil that wanted to go into the US, and it takes a little bit longer. Building relationships in Latin America, it takes a little bit longer for them to trust you, to give us all their money to do something like that. In the United States, it's not as difficult. Like United States, there's more, it's just easier. The trust is easier for them to make the decision to go into Latin America. So yes, it is possible from going from Latin America to the United States, but we have just found from our experiences, those take a little bit more time. They can be super profitable and fruitful, but they just take a little bit more time to do. We have helped some people, but mostly we do it the other way around, but doesn't mean that we don't do it the other way, like from Latin America to the United States. And I've even done, by the way, other countries. So like I've done Portugal to Spain, Spain to the United States, Spain to Latin America, even like Spain to Denmark. So there's opportunities for different countries as well. But we just focus on Latin America and the United States. Yeah. Great question though.
Did we have any more questions?
Oh, actually, I have another one that I just thought of. I'm sorry. So, for you, like Rebecca, you have a lot more experience like growing your own personal brand, but there is like a difference like you feel when you're growing your personal brand like within your own network, but then you're trying to like establish that credibility. Like let's say like, so I'm from Costa Rica, but if I want to work in Spain, like how do I build my personal brand so when I go to Spain like to try to get a job, I could be like, okay, you can trust me because what would you recommend like tips for someone who wants to kind of go to another market? Or, like,
Yeah, I would say know things about the market, about the Spanish market. That goes a long way. And just know things about their culture and bring it up in the interview and bring it up and just show that you understand them, you know, that, and that makes them feel like she's trying, you know, she's not just someone that wants a job in another country. Like she actually she's trying to understand us. She's not coming in like a random person that we're going to have to teach everything about our country to. She knows what's going on. So that's what I would say, just to know their culture, know their idioms, bring it up in the interview, talk about how much you love the country if you do get an interview. But in your resume, maybe like show that you have experience in Spain somehow, you know, maybe figure out a certificate, or like I did a certificate in Latin American studies. Maybe there's something out there for that specific market that you could do that relates to the type of job that you want, type of career that you want. So that's what I would suggest. Just know the market, know their country, and convey that as best as you can in your resume and in your interview.
thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, do we have any more?
I'd like to make a statement, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it's my impression that Rebecca wasn't thinking in college, I'm going to go to Columbia and start an SEO company. In fact, I don't even think she was thinking about Latin America until she studied abroad there. So one thing that, you know, when we talk about our careers, and if you ask me about how did I become a study abroad advisor, I can give you a very logical explanation of how it all unfolded, but the reality is I had no idea what I was doing at the time that I did it. And I think it often requires you to take a step in a direction where you don't know what's going to happen, but that unfolds and leads to other things. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, Becca, but.
Yeah, for sure. Great question, because when you're in college, you don't know what you're going to do. That's very common. And I didn't know. I think you have desires in your heart. And I think it's good to follow those desires. That's what I did. So even if you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, just follow those desires in your heart in whatever opportunities they present themselves at the time. So for instance, going to Spain, the desire was I like Spanish and I want to go to Spain to learn Spanish, and that could be useful which is so useful. Please learn another language, guys, if you can. please try. So going to Spain was just part of that. And then I didn't know, like Jason said, that I wanted to do Latin American business until I really liked going to Spain and I really liked traveling. And then the Chile opportunity came up, and then I got a certificate there in Latin American business. So if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have even been in what I am in now. Maybe I would have, because this is, again, the desires of my heart that I had, but I think anything that I would have done that follows the desires of my heart that were in my heart at the time can help with taking those steps. Like, even if it's not exactly what you want, just take a little step. And then whether you like that next step or not, you have more information and data on what you like and what you don't. And then you can make better decisions moving forward. You know, it's not always going to be like a target that you hit perfectly whenever you're leaving college and getting into the work and into professional career, even while you're at college. Like, it's never going to be like, this is exactly what I want to do. Like, I don't think it ever works like that. It's just trying things out, seeing if you don't like it, but just making sure to go for it. Because if you don't go for it, you don't know what you don't like, and you don't know what you do like. So just go for things and take risks. You should take risks right now. It's the best time to take risks. I know there's like all this COVID stuff, but you should take professional and educational career risks as much as you can, because now is the time, I would say. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Jason.
No, it was perfect. I think sometimes students meet someone like you and they say, I don't have that vision. And And I think none of us have that vision. We just take steps and it unfolds for us and we see those opportunities.
Exactly.
Well, if we don't have any last questions, we can conclude the meeting. But I do want to thank you again, Becca, for joining us and for answering all of our questions and for taking the time. We always love having you.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do want to say that for everyone here, if you are interested in the internship program, we have a link to it on our website under company partnerships. So definitely take a look at that. And we have Ali on execs who is a previous intern. So you can always reach out to her if you have any questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, I talk about my experience at Calibri all the time. Like every interview I talk about it because it's so important. Like sometimes companies will just throw questions at you, like hypothetical, like case type questions. And you're just like, how would you start? And like I'm in marketing, so a lot of it would be like, how would you start? So I talk a lot about my experience trying to figure out the buyer persona, and that's something that I learned from Calibri, and I always bring it back to trying to figure out what a person needs.
Yes.
And answering that question through your work. And so during the interview, we were forced to download like the keyword, you know what I'm talking, you know?
Yeah, the keyword tool. Yeah.
The keyword, and use those like databases to try to figure out what people are asking the web and trying to answer that question through your work. And so I talk about it all the time. Intern, if you can, like if you don't have a crazy, amount on your plate, the lessons that you learn are priceless. So
thanks, Ali. Yeah, that's a big thing that we focus on. Like we want people to understand the concepts of things. Guys, another thing, things are not that difficult. I think even if you apply, like if you go to a big company and you apply for something, like it's not that difficult. A lot of things can be broken down into really simple, easy concepts. And as long as you understand like the basis of those concepts, you can answer any question anyone throws at you. So like Ali said, she uses that experience it gives you a framework. So what we do at Calibri is we want to give people a framework of how to think well, how to think like a marketer, how to think like a business associate. And that will go a long way in preparing you for any type of job that you have in the future. So yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to say. Also, thanks everyone that said thank you. That's awesome. I so appreciate being here. I love talking to you guys. Like I said, I love showing people just different opportunities in different ways, and just, it's a hard time, especially now for you guys with the coronavirus and everything, but just generally as it is, it's hard to understand where you're going to go next and the next steps that you should take in your career. So I didn't know at the time, so I love sharing from my experiences how I got to where I am. So I always enjoy being here, and I always enjoy explaining that. And I even, like, Ali wasn't even an intern, and I was helping her out with like cover letters and resumes and stuff. Like once you're a Freebird, you're like part of the family, and we try to help you out as much as you can. So that is, and we hope that you do that with other people and continue to share. So help one another out.
Yeah, Becca was helping me at midnight. I sent her a message at like 10:30 p.m. like, Becca, like, please help me. And then she like answered, like, you like answered in like at like 11:30. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then we hopped on a call.
Yeah. I want to help you guys. It's a tough time. Yeah. So and just having a network of people who also know. So now Ali can help someone. If you message me at 12, I'll send you to Ali next time. But yeah, it's so great being here though, guys. So I really appreciate that you guys reach out, and yeah, I really enjoy it. So thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for coming.
Also, Gabby, can you put up the